Good morning. I see there's a few of you already in here. Debbie's here, Katie's here, Taz here. Welcome, ladies. Oh, Selena's here. Good morning. I just popped open the chat, so if you're here, say hi. Welcome. It's going to be a fun morning. Lots of learning. Morning. Oh, good thing I opened it. You guys are early. I like early, especially on a Monday. How's everybody doing from the event hangover of this weekend? There was wedding shows this weekend. There were events this weekend. All kinds of stuff. How's everybody doing this morning? I know it's Monday and it's busy and everybody's catching up on email, which is a lot usually when you've been gone over the weekend. So lots going on, but we will email out the recorded version of this also. Morning, Katie. In case you get distracted or the phone rings or you get lost in email and it's going on in the background, which is okay because that's how I listen to webinars. I wish we could all just be 100% present and focused, but you know, at the end of the day, we know that there's lots of stuff to do. So at least you're taking the time to invest in your learning and keep growing your business this year. Today's focus is definitely going to be on the sales side, how to make your meetings better. I can help you guys better by knowing what it is you do. Are you a planner? Are you a DJ? Are you a photographer? Most of you I know, but not everybody. So make sure you put in the chat box what it is that you do and any questions all the way through. Good morning, Alexis from Orlando Wedding Party Rentals, all the way through the webinar. If I am saying something and you get stuck and you have a question or you want to share somewhere that you get stuck in your sales process when you're meeting with clients, or, you know, make sure you share with me. Let me know where you get stuck or, you know, where the biggest challenges are when it comes to selling. This way I can help you. So the more the merrier. So keep sharing what you're doing. Make sure you're following us on social media if you're not already, so you can get invites to things like this. Next month's topic will be pretty fun. It's about customer reviews. So that'll be a great topic with lots more learning. For those who are still joining and joining in, welcome. Hey, Jenny. I just saw you creep on in here from our DJ Rocks. I'm sure you're recovering too from the events for the weekend. Ooh, Katie, that's a good one. I'm tired of people becoming crickets after you reach out to them. I know you follow up. I follow up a lot too, but it's interesting in today's world as to, but we do the same thing, right? If I chase after someone and I'm looking for information and I get what I need and I book somebody else, I try to be good at responding, but I'm not always the best at it. So sometimes I do that also. Welcome to anybody who's kind of come in afterwards. We haven't started yet, but just chit-chatting a little bit. Make sure you're using the chat box and share everything. Follow us at Wedding Venue Map. It's on Instagram and Facebook. We're also looking for blogs. So until the website launches, which is coming soon, anybody who has the ability to share a blog with us about something that's helpful information for brides and grooms, we're happy to put it up on the site. So that'll be exciting. If you've got something or a great topic, make sure you email me. It's hello@weddingvenuemap.com. And that'll come right to me. Oh, it's a light group this morning, but that's good. That means you guys get to ask all the questions. Make sure you use the chat. Please be sure to share. Tell me where you're stuck. Katie's already throwing a good one in there. I'm tired of people becoming crickets. If there's something that you're stuck that I haven't included in the presentation, let me know so I can make sure that I include it. For those joining in, it's just about 10 o'clock. So welcome, and we will email out the recorded version that'll have all the slides and all the info, so that way you've got it. My ultimate goal is to get these a little bit shorter than an hour, so shorter is better, right? The quicker the better. But you know me, I like to overshare information. So we're going to go ahead and get started. There will always be a few trailers in, but I like to be on time. I like when people are on time for me. So I'm going to keep everything rolling for you guys to make sure that it's a good use of your time. Let me go ahead and pop up, and I'm going to share my screen so that you can see it. Make sure you go ahead and mute your audio on there. I can mute you if you haven't. I've gone in and done it. Here you go. Mute a few of you guys out. Okay, so you're muted. You don't have to worry about talking and having somebody else hear you. All right, let's share the screen and pop this up so that you guys can see what's going on. I am going to turn off the video, but I will still be able to see the chat. Moving that over to the side. Let me just pop my video off so that way you don't have to worry about seeing my beautiful face, and we'll focus on the presentation. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to this month's webinar, Shut Up and Listen, Sell More by Saying Less. Make sure you keep sharing in the chat box if you have any questions, or if I say something and you're stuck or you're not sure and you understand. So this is the second of our monthly webinar series. If you didn't get a chance to see last month, they're up on the YouTube. So very exciting for us to be able to share and teach you something new each month that'll help you grow your business and make more money this year, next year, and in the future. The goal is always to get a few tips out of it that you can go and put into action today. So make sure you jot down on a separate sheet of paper those actionable items that you can start and focus with. Like, we gotta start somewhere, right? Okay, so a little bit about me. So my name is Shannon Tarrant. I am the founder and owner of WeddingVenueMap.com and the Shannon Experience. I work with small businesses, heavy in the wedding and event industry, but small businesses in general, helping them grow their business. Sometimes it's sales, sometimes it's marketing, just depends on really where they need to focus and define their goals for the future. So this topic is a little ironic for me because for those who know me, know that I like to talk. I'm happy sitting here on a webinar for an hour talking to myself. But when it comes to the actual sales process and sitting in front of a client, it's a very different Shannon that they get to see, because I had to learn that it really wasn't about me, it was about the client. So little ironic, but I'll make sure that you guys learn some of those same tips that I learned. So what you're going to learn today: how to improve your client meetings, the difference between poor listening and active listening, asking questions to find their pain points and what pain really is, easy tips to start using today, how to ask for the business, and really where to start. Throughout the sales cycle, your prospects are going to drop clues as to what they're thinking and how they're feeling about your products or your services and what you offer. In other words, if you don't tell them if you don't listen to them, they're really telling you what they like and dislike and what's important to them. So this is that information that you need to close the sale at the end. If you don't pay attention, you have to work twice as hard. So the goal is to learn how to really listen and pay attention to what they're doing. So why are you here today? We're growing money today. Like a gardener, you need the tools to grow your business. Making more money happens one of two ways. You can either grow your profit margins, which means you're cutting costs, or you increase sales. So today's goal is to focus on increasing sales. Sales is the biggest tool and the fastest way to increase the revenue in your company. But how can behaviors like this really help you grow? By doing some of the things we'll learn today, you'll make more money. I mean, converting more leads to close sales at the end of the day just makes more money, right? It's less stressful. A meeting full of learning about your client needs is more comfortable than trying to sell yourself. When you are focused on them and not on yourself, it makes it a little bit less stressful, a little bit easier. There's that satisfying feeling. There's nothing better than getting the email that says, yes, we're ready for a contract, or we want to move forward. I have a few clients that I do some accountability for when it comes to their sales, and the more they sell and the faster, and you see that momentum gain, it gets really exciting. It feels like you're ticking the box and you see money coming in. So it's exciting. So doing those pieces and parts always helps. For those of you who have met Alan Berg, he's come to speak locally for Wedding Wire. He's amazing and really changed my entire career path. One of the quotes from his book, you'll always know more about your products and services than your customers, but not everyone needs to hear it all. This is kind of the focus of everything we're going to talk about today, is that not everybody needs to hear your whole story. So when I met Alan at Wedding MBA about 5 years ago, maybe it's longer now, 6 or 7 years ago, I was struggling a little bit. The hotel I was working for, the way the packages were, the way the pricing was, it wasn't really making any sense. And I heard him speak, and it was really about listening to your clients and finding what they're asking for and building your services around what they say they need. It changed everything at the hotel I was at. I redid all the packages, redid all the pricing, changed everything up, and it was fascinating to see how quickly it worked. So, really listening to the customer and to the clients is a really important thing. I'm going to touch on something that Katie had asked to talk about, because it's a little bit before the portion of your client meeting itself. So Katie had commented she's tired of people becoming crickets after she reaches out to them, and she follows up 1 million times. I think the world has very much changed when it comes to sales. People fill out a form on a website and then they disappear. It's a lot of getting creative with what you're saying and trying to stop selling them. Alan's biggest tip is always to ask a question as the last thing at the end of your email. So you're leaving open the door for conversation. It works really well some of the time. Every client is so different, and every wedding or event is so unique that it's hard to figure out if the client through email or a lead form is really interested, what they're interested is, what their personality type is. Are they more of a, accountant type where it's really only about the numbers? Are they a creative? Maybe they're in the arts and, they just want a good feel from you. It's really hard to figure that out. So writing emails is an interesting new path for people in college for marketing, is how to write emails that convert. So, finding different things to share, events that you've done in the past, not just trying to sell, but finding ways to connect with them to have a quick conversation. Stop scaring them into, let's have a meeting. Nobody's got time for a meeting. I don't have time for meetings. Do you have time for meetings? Comment in the chat box. I know you're making time for this webinar, but if a new vendor, if you're a planner or, a DJ or whatever, and some new vendor reaches out and says, hey, I want to schedule a meeting with you. And in your head, you've got 3 events this weekend and bride meetings and all of that stuff. It's a quick decision. I usually check people's website and decide, is this somebody that I think is it someone that fulfills a need? So it's making sure that the information you're sharing is about, how are you fulfilling the needs of your clients? So one of the easiest things to do is make a list called features versus benefits. I'm going to put it in totally non-wedding terms to make it as easy and explainable as possible. When I was driving from Altamont to Howey in the Hills every day, my vehicle, gas became a very important factor for me of how much money I was spending on gas. So one of the things I did was decide I wanted to buy something more fuel efficient. Well, when I was shopping for cars, they kept telling me this car gets 50 miles a gallon, this car gets 60 miles a gallon, this one gets 40. I didn't really care about miles to the gallon. That's a feature on a car. The benefit is that it saves me money. So make a list of all of the services you provide. Those are your features. And then make a list right next to it of what is the benefit to the client for each one of those features. When you can start selling benefits and stop talking about features, it makes it really easy. So I'll do Mission Inn because obviously that's the easiest one for me. Mission Inn is a venue that can host your wedding, right? They have great food, lots of activities. Okay, great. That's the features. The benefit is instead of having a 1-day party, you get a 3-day party. You get extra time to create memories with your friends and family here for your special day. So that's the benefit, right? Which sells better? the getting 3 days to make memories instead of 6 hours, or there's a venue with hotel rooms. So Katie, it's a great suggestion. And Tao, I know you had said some of the same thing. Look at the emails you're sending or the text you're sending or the information or the voicemails you're leaving, and make sure you're focusing on the benefits, not on the features of your business. All right, so I'm going to circle back a little bit on how to start improving your client meetings. We're going to cover how to become aware of your poor listening habits, how to be more curious about your clients, and how to present with confidence. So while other people are talking, most of us fall in, if you're not a really good listener, which I am not, you'll fall into one of these 4 categories. You were preparing your next response as soon as the other party started talking. This is that one where you're like a racehorse waiting for the gate to open. Like the second they start talking and you're already thinking about what you're going to say next. You're just waiting for your turn. And the only thing that kept you from saying anything was the other person was still talking. Is that you? Or you were judging and evaluating. So whatever they were saying, you were judging it. The good, the bad, the interesting, the boring, the, oh my God, could she possibly want that? Like, does this even make any sense? Why does that? Oh, she picked the ugliest colors, whatever it is. But you're judging and evaluating. You can get distracted by their tone, their approach, their gestures. But the evaluating it, you start listening to yourself instead of to the other person. So you're not really doing great listening. You've checked out. We're going to go to the other one last because that's the one that I do the most often. You've checked out and you're on to other things and you start thinking about other things. So this one's bad, right? You can tell when somebody's done this, because if that person has missed what you're saying and they get back into the conversation, they start somewhere that is not really where the conversation was going or what you were saying. It's happening more and more with how much we multitask. It's like if all of a sudden you guys are checking email and answering texts and doing other things while you listen to the webinar, and all of a sudden I say, make sure you comment in the chat box, and you're like, wait, what? Comment about what? So we multitask a lot. So this one is happening more and more and more. It really is about, this is like listening for snippets for what you want to hear. And that doesn't really work either. The 4th is jumping to conclusions rather than listening. So you make like a conclusion and you stop listening. So I would hear one thing. This one was all me before I changed up my sales strategy. So I used to listen and hear what I knew was like, I was assuming we were going down a certain path of the conversation, and I would conclude how the benefit would help them, but I wasn't really finishing listening. I used to not be able to wait for them to stop talking so I can impress them with all the goodies that we had to offer. So that one was me. I was the worst out of that 4, because you're really kind of listening and then you let it go. So it's hard. I mean, we're all guilty of these sometimes, right? I went to a conference in January, a wedding planner conference up in Atlanta, and one of the speakers had said something about when you're networking that you really just take the 30, 60 seconds, 2-3 minutes that when you're with a person talking, you just focus on that person and only talk to that person. No looking around the room. And when she said that, I was like, oh God, I totally do that. Like people walk past and it distracts me. I hear other conversations because I have really good hearing, being 100% present with the person you're with. And by doing that last week at the Knot Party, man, I made some awesome connections with people by really just focusing on them. I didn't meet as many people as I usually do, but I made good connections. So which one of these are you? Which, are you, are you listening? Are you doing one of these behaviors? So let's talk about active listening. The active listener pays close attention to the other person's choice of words, their tone of voice, and their body language, which is 80% of all communication is their body language. The listener takes in all these components and then repeats back to the speaker the most important points that the person was touching on. So, I mean, this is important, like active listening. You're really listening to their choice of words. A very simple sales technique is when you listen to the words people use is finding out if someone's a visual learner, an audio learner, or a kinesthetic learner. So if we're together and we're in a meeting and I say something as simple as I see what you mean, it means I'm visual. And I say that all the time because I am visual. So when someone says, I hear what you're saying, that means they're in audio. This is like advanced sales, but I'm throwing it in as a little tip. So if I was on a tour with a bride at my venue and she would say, I hear what you're saying, I could almost put away the iPad and stop showing photos. And I realized that she learns by audio. So as we were walking, I would be describing the spaces and talking more what it looks like, what it's going to look like and what it's going to feel like. I would not show pictures because she was an audio. It's hard when there's two people there and one's an audio, one's a visual, but you have to really be a strong listener and not expecting what they're saying next. So to listen to what their choice of words are. Their tone of voice is huge, and their body language. So nodding, making eye contact, and affirming that you're listening to them is really important. Paraphrasing the speaker's ideas to be sure that you understand correctly. So that kind of means like if a bride says, well, I really want to have, blush and burgundy as my wedding colors, it's like, okay, so blush and burgundy, where did you come up with that color palette? Like by saying things back to them as to what they're saying is important because it shows that you're listening. Another really great technique when you're in a meeting is called matching and mirroring. What that means is that somebody's sitting in front of you and across from you, or standing next to you if you're walking and talking. Your body language and your tone of voice and your volume and the way you speak is to match and mirror. So if you're sitting at a table and that person is laid back in the chair and kind of has their arms crossed across their body, subtly, you can't look ridiculous. By every move they make, you make the same move. But subtly, you start to match and mirror them. It's a subconscious way to make the person you're speaking with feel more comfortable. So I'm a lean forward at the end of the chair and like put my arms on the table person, but I never cross my legs. But if you do it, then I'm going to do it with you. If you're super excited about planning your wedding and whatever, I'm going to be super excited with you. If you're just trying to figure it out and you're not really sure, I'm going to be a little bit softer and say, well, here's some of the options. So it's really important to match and mirror with the speed of the conversation, your voice, all of those things. But those types of things show active listening. So this is a great one. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should be using them in that proportion. When you're in a meeting with clients or you're on the phone with them, you should only be speaking, 80-20 is the ideal, but we have a hard time doing that in the event industry because we like to talk. But you really should be making sure that you're listening twice as much as you're speaking so that they're doing most of the talking, you're asking more of the questions. So what does be more curious about your clients mean? This is really important. When you change your idea pattern to go from selling to asking and trying to find out about them and figure out what they need, the whole process of this game changes. So when you realize that you're talking too much, I've sat in meetings with a lot of people who are in this webinar. A lot. I've heard you guys do meetings. I have a lot of clients. One of my very first clients ever had a really hard time with the listening and did a lot of speaking and presenting and not so much listening and learning. So being more curious is finding out what they really want. Stop making assumptions that you have what they need because you may not have what they need or that they want. So it's really finding out what it is they really want. And they don't always know. So you have to figure out all the right questions, asking a ton of questions to pull that information out of them. You have to put yourself in their shoes. I don't know about you, but before I got into this industry, I didn't really know much about planning a wedding or a super large scale event. So for a lot of them, it's intimidating. It's scary. And they feel like everywhere they turn, people are trying to rip them off. So know that that's how they feel. Be empathetic to what they're feeling and what they're thinking. What's frustrating them? What do they need to improve? What do they like? What do they dislike? Only recommending things that will help them. Then you really start the process of becoming someone that they can trust. Very few people enjoy being sold to. yet we all love buying stuff, right? So when I know what I want and I walk into a store, that's why online shopping is so popular right now. I mean, it's so easy, so the ease of it, but nobody wants to be sold anymore. If I know the furniture, I'd rather go into the furniture store, sit on the couch and be like, I like it, and not have to talk to a furniture salesperson, and go home and just buy it myself and have it delivered, so I don't have to talk to anybody. But we love buying stuff, we just don't like to be sold to. So it makes sense to sell the way people want to buy. Ask open-ended questions to elicit more information, asking specific questions to clarify your understanding of what it is they need. But really, what's the point, right? What's the point in this whole being curious? And the goal is called, what's it's called is finding pain. People purchase when they have a pain. They buy to fulfill a need. They don't just buy to buy. I mean, if I'm at the grocery store and you've got a rack of candy at the checkout, unless I'm A, hungry, or B, craving some chocolate, I walk right past it. But there are those days, man, those peanut M&Ms call out to me and I'm desperate and I want to eat them. So it's really about trying to find what is your customer's pain. So unless your prospect has a need to solve a problem, they're never going to buy. They're not going to buy from you. So yes, they need flowers for their wedding. Yes, they need chairs to sit on, for their wedding. But if it's not important to them, or you can't figure out really what is their biggest challenge right now, they're probably not going to buy. It's way easier to go through your talking points. Instead of saying the same things you've said 100 times, when you engage them in a dialogue about their challenges, it's so much easier because you're solving their problems. Who doesn't like their problems to get solved? Brides and grooms don't always know what they need, but they know what they're trying to avoid or prevent. A really great question is, tell me about the last wedding you went to, that you attended, or the last event if they haven't been to a wedding. Tell me the last event you went to. What was amazing and what was terrible about it? Because, I went to this wedding and the food was so bad. Well, if I'm a caterer, okay, great. So what is so bad to you? So you just keep asking questions to find out where's the pain. Remember, asking questions can help you get to their pain points. Solving pain is why people buy. So when you're asking questions, it's really important to not ask yes or no questions because that gets you nowhere. It puts the conversation right back on you. So do you think, use terminology like tell me. Tell me about the last wedding you went to. How can we make your day memorable? Why did you pick those colors for your flowers? Asking very open-ended questions drives the conversation back to them. It's so simple to just say why. Why? My first question every single meeting, every single time was, how is wedding planning going? Before we did anything. Hi, it's so nice to meet you. Great, blah, blah, blah. How's wedding planning going? It tells you everything about what their pains are and what their needs are in this moment. It goes one of two, maybe three ways, but it's usually either awesome, it's fantastic, it's been so much fun, I'm having the greatest time, or such and such has been easy, but such and such has been a challenge, or this is awful and it's terrible and I hate it. And right then and there, you've opened the door to figure out what their pains are. What's been the easiest part of planning a wedding? Tell me what's been the most challenging. Why is that so important to you when they tell you that, it's important for me to have a venue that has hotel rooms, or it's important for me, everyone's telling me I need to have a wedding planner on wedding day, but I'm not sure, why. Well, why do you think it's important to you to have someone there on wedding day? Flip it back on them and let them sell you on why they need you. So asking questions gets to the pain, but the pain is important. You have to remember the meeting isn't about you. It's not about you. Even though you feel like you should come in, because we've all been through terrible sales in our lifetime, that you go in and they spend an hour talking about how great they are without ever finding out what you need. It's not about the products you have, the services that you offer. It's none of that. It's about if you can fulfill their need for what they're looking for. And if you can't, then the sale is over. Like, you have no chance. And that'll be a bride you chase and chase and chase and chase, and it never goes anywhere if you don't find a way to fulfill the need. So let's talk about when you're in the meeting. Right? These are ways to focus more on, we talked about active listening, we talked about finding pain, asking questions. These are ways to kind of get further and closer down the pain. One, slow the conversation down. One of my favorite from Sandler was, you're on step 7, I'm on step 2. And they're like, oh, like, well, just how much does it cost? Well, I mean, there's a lot of things I need and information I need to factor before I can tell you how much it costs. So slow it down, articulate your thoughts, and go slow. I talk fast in this setting because I'm trying to maximize your guys' time. But when I'm with a bride and groom, I slow down, I pause. I look at their face to see if they understand what I'm saying. I ask questions to help guide them and shape what they share. And I, try very hard not to interrupt them. Well, never. You should never, but I don't always do that. Number 2 is don't interrupt them. Not only is it rude, which it is rude, but you miss out on something they might have said. So if I get so excited to sell what I think you need, so if I'm doing furniture rentals, right? And so they are like, well, I'm getting married outside and I really think I need tables and chairs, but I'm not so sure about, and I interrupt and I'm like, oh, you probably need a tent and maybe lights and whatever. That girl could have told me 27 more items that she needed, but I cut her off. And I didn't really give her the opportunity to share something that may have been killer. She may have said, I love market lights, but I really don't want a tent if I can put one on hold or anything like that, because my dream is to get married underneath the stars. But you never let her say that. And now you're selling a tent and she's like, I'm not a tent bride. So what they could have shared when you interrupt them could have shaped the conversation, but they didn't get a chance to because you opened your big mouth. I used to do that all the time, not anymore. Listen to their emotions. Really listen to their tone of voice and their stress levels. Learn how to recognize the volume, the speed, the tone, and how that indicates how they're feeling. On every call, or meeting you do, make it a goal to think about what the person might be thinking behind their words. Like, are they envisioning it in their head? But really listen for their emotion behind the conversation. Clarify and paraphrase. Paraphrase their thoughts into your own words to show them that you care about what they're saying and make sure that you understood them. Sometimes I hear what I want to hear, not exactly what they said. And when I say it back to them, because I do a lot of paraphrasing, they're like, oh, yeah, that's what we meant. Or, yep, that's you put my idea into words. Or they're like, no, that's not really what I was thinking. And I'm like, oh, God. So let's try this again. Explain it to me again, what your vision of it was. It's important to try to do that anywhere where you think there might be a disconnect. Position yourself as an expert. This is huge with millennials especially. Making sure that without telling them they're wrong and it's not what they want. I would meet with clients at Mission Inn and they would say, oh, I'm just obsessed with Publix cake. I have to get my wedding cake from Publix. And I would have oh God, no, because we had some really challenging cakes from Publix that had come and we had major problems and issues with them. But I'm not going to ruin her dream of that she wanted the cake from Publix. My next answer was, well, why do you think you want to get cakes from Publix? I just love the way I get my birthday cake from there every year. Well, have you ever tried a wedding cake from there? I kept asking questions to kind of walk her down the path of some of the challenges that could happen. It was there. The other great way to position yourself as an expert is to, share things that they maybe haven't thought of. So, if I'm a DJ and they call me and they're like, I want a reception and blah, blah, blah. And I have to have this, for my reception. And they haven't really mentioned the ceremony. As silly as it sounds, don't assume that she actually has a plan for ceremony music. Ask the question. So what are you planning on doing for your ceremony? Oh, I'm going to have a violin, play. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, have you already booked someone? That's so great. Are they going to bring microphones for you? And when they're like, wait, why? Well, sometimes when you get married outdoor, there can be a little bit of challenge of people being able to hear you. And not all of the musicians have that kind of sound system. And they're like, oh, no, do I need that? I need that. Well, do you want your guests to be able to hear you? Well, yeah. So, they then think through and you're asking the questions to walk them down the path. Another amazing way to position yourself as an expert is to connect them with other opportunities and other vendors. Once you really understand their goals and their challenges along the way, You can start bringing them together with other vendors you know. Obviously, it depends on where you are in the planning process, but those introductions that you're giving probably have nothing to do with your products or services, but it establishes you as someone looking out for their best interests. One of the things we always did at Mission, which was unique for most venues, is that we never gave out a vendor list. We always did custom referring based upon their style and their budget and their personalities. You're going to spend the whole day on wedding day with your photographer. I need somebody that you're going to love and get along with. So if you're the most like chill, laid back, hippie couple who doesn't really care about things and wants to really just party that day, I need to make sure that I don't send you the like over the top personality and in your face photographer, which, you know, everybody's got different personalities and pros and cons. If you like the darker, moodier style of pictures, I'm not going to send you to a photographer that's light and airy and, you know, all those things. So it's remembering that you referring people really makes you look good when you send them to the right people that fulfill their need. So figuring out what they need. Remember their anecdotes. So trust me, you'll stand out if you remember the nuances from the conversation and refer to them later. I would meet with a couple and he'd be like, oh, we're Irish and, you know, we drink and blah, 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 and our family's crazy. Well, like in my head and on that sheet of paper, I'm like, he's Irish. It's so small and so simple. Or, you know, blah, blah, blah. And Uncle Joe, you really got to watch out for him because he tends to drink too much at the wedding. Or, you know, the groom gave me purple roses on our first anniversary and it meant the most to me, but I don't really want purple as part of my bouquet, but it is, you know, but I really love them and blah, blah, blah. Well, if that girl comes for a final look, I mean, give her a little thing of 6 purple roses. Like, show them that you're listening to them. Those anecdotes make a big deal when you're following up with them also after the meeting, is to be able to bring up one of those stories or something they told and use it as a way to relate with them. Lose the jargon. This is a huge one. We are all the worst in the wedding industry. We use terminology that they've never heard of. Like, they don't even know what we're talking about. So, like a resin chair. Resin chairs are the worst. I just was working with a venue, and she was like, their package said they include white resin chairs. Do you think a bride and groom has any idea what a resin chair is? No, it's a padded folding chair. That's all she needs to know. Get rid of the jargon. Florists. I mean, don't go crazy talking about the type of flowers. I went with my friend to a florist, and they started talking flowers, and she looked at me in a panic because I knew the flowers that they were talking about. But they're saying delphinium and this and that, and she's like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. So unless you have visuals to show, don't use terminology and jargon that makes sense to you. Don't call them boots. Call them boutonnieres if you're a florist. You know, don't talk about things like our blah, 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 LED, blah, blah, blah. Just call them uplights. Like, don't make it complicated for them. So get the jargon out of your vocabulary and make sure you're speaking about it the way that brides and grooms understand it. Stop complicating it. Oh, lapel flower. That's fantastic, Andy. Just threw that up in the comments versus the boutonniere. Respect your client's time. Make sure the timing is right. If it feels rushed, either on your side or their side, maybe reschedule. Like, you want to make sure that they're in the right mood and that you have their full attention. Or try to get as quick as possible of what you can do to help get them out of there. But really pay attention to your client's time. Our tours at Mission were 90 minutes minimum. On average, it was 2 hours if you wanted to see all 3 spaces. But we told them in advance. So don't show up here and tell me you have a tour somewhere else in an hour. So be respectful of their time. Tell them how long it's going to take. Make sure you're setting really clear expectations. Keep it super simple. Don't ramble on about things that they have no relation to anything that they said they want. Don't talk about it. They don't care. Like, literally, they don't care. So keep it super simple. Pick a few things that you believe will help your customer. Focus on the benefits of how it can help them. Having listened, you should have good understanding of what they need in relation to your product and service. So don't sell things you don't need. Easy example. If I'm at Mission and touring, one of my questions was, you know, to people there, do you guys golf? And if they were like, no, I was like, me neither. I just like to drink and drive the cart. And I moved on. If they were like, yes, I would then tell them about the features of the golf courses. If they don't care, why am I going to talk them out of getting married here? Because they're like, who cares about the golf? Or do you have golfers in your group? So keep it simple. Present with confidence. So make sure that when you get to the point at which you're talking solutions on what they've shared with you, that you like are talking like you know what you're talking about. Don't be unsure. You've invested the time, you understand their needs, like you've created a solution that reflects their needs, and you're only recommending something that will bring value to them, which could save them time, money, or effort. So make sure that you're doing it with confidence that you know what you're talking about. Ask for the business. Oh God, here we go. 7 out of 10 salespeople don't ask for the business at the end. Like they don't do it. You get all the way to the end of a meeting. Make sure if you have questions, you're putting them in that chat too, as I'm talking through the process. If there's a place you get stuck in your meeting, throw it in the chat box. I'll make sure to put extra time into that portion of the presentation. So ask for the business. 7 out of 10 salespeople don't ask at the end. I know this because I sit down with my friends when they're getting married, these wedding vendors. We get to the end of the meeting, they're like, okay, so I'll send you a proposal. I'm like, awesome. Like, okay. Like, they never asked. One of my friends was like ready to book everywhere she went. A cake company lost her wedding cake because she was like, these people won't take my money. They keep telling me I have to come for a tasting. Like, they keep telling me I have to come for a taste. I don't want to come taste the cake. Shannon, you said the cake is good. I just want to buy the damn cake and move on. I'll figure out the design later. I just want to put the deposit down so I can check it off the list. So sales are about conversations and decisions. You build relationships and you create the trust, but after all that hard work, you need to know if you're going to work together in the future. So you have to figure out how to close them and ask for the business. So at the end of every single meeting I do, in any avenue, whether it's with a consultant client that I'm trying to book, whether it's me selling a bride, no matter what it is, I ask for the business. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you have zero interest in anything that I've talked about today, and 10 meaning you're ready to sign, you're ready to give me your money right now. You can't wait to just pass over the cash. Where are you at? Sometimes they're a 10, sometimes they're a 9. If they're a 3, like wherever they answer on that scale of 1 to 10, you have a really good idea of whether the prospect is going to close or not. So let's role play. I'll role play for you. So I ask on a scale of 1 to 10, and you respond and say, I'm a 7. My response is, wow, you're a 7. That's fantastic. You know, what did you see that kind of got you all the way to a 7? Oh, I like this, I love that, I need this. And I'm like, so then what's it going to take to get you from a 7 to a 10? From the venue standpoint, they would say, well, my mom needs to see it, or I need to review the budget. We need to see if we can cut back on the guest list, all those things. But now I know what part is missing. But you know, we always ask for it at the end of the meeting. We explain what the deposit looked like, how you confirm it, what the next steps would be to move forward, you know, and I would say, let me ask you the questions I'm going to need to write your contract. Sometimes they weren't ready, but I was like, it's okay. I'm not writing the contract. This is the information I would need. If they start answering the questions, I know they're a really, really, really hot lead. They're thinking. The ones who are like, no, like it's not even, well, they're not going anywhere. Right? They're probably going to become a dead lead. So make sure when you get to the end of this, you ask for the business. I don't care if it's a phone call. You have to ask for what's next. That's what we're going to talk about next, the next steps. So if they're not ready to sign, you have to be really clear about what is next. You have to be really clear about, because you've built the rapport, you've listened, you've asked all the questions, they love you at this point. You really need to know if, you know, you're summarizing the meeting with an agreement on what you're going to do next and what the client needs to do and a date and a time for your next conversation. So let's say, you know, you're a florist and you met with, or you're a planner. Let's be a planner this time. So you're a planner and you met with a bride and we get all the way to the end. She says, oh, I'm still not sure. I have a few more meetings booked with other planners. We'll role play it. My answer is, oh, you do? Who else are you meeting with? Like excited. And when they say so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, I can say, oh God, they're so great. They do such a great job. You picked some great people to meet with. So what do you think is going to be the deciding factor? You know, when you make the decision, and they'll say, blah, blah, blah. So when are you finishing? When are you guys looking to make a decision by? Oh, we're trying to decide by, you know, the end of April, what planner we're using for our wedding. Oh, okay. So, you know, I understand that it doesn't sound like it's a huge priority for you to make a decision, but you've got a date that you're talking about is really it's hot and it's a Saturday in October. I'm concerned that the date might not be available. What would you do if you called me back and I don't have the date available for you? And it kind of like puts those pieces and parts in there. That's a good question on how to sell on the phone. I'll do that next. So making sure you're leaving with clear next steps, asking, so when should I get in touch with you next? And making sure that they're held accountable to it also, not just you. Sell the problem you can solve, not the product or service you can provide. So selling on the phone, let's talk about that for a minute. It's really on how to sell if you ever meet or even speak on the phone in person. So not meeting in person is not a problem. Today's bride and groom will buy on the phone, depending upon the services that you offer. If you're a venue, you have no chance. But tables and chairs are tables and chairs, and flowers are flowers. If you can get look and feel and all you can book is a phone call, they'll book on the phone. So you still have to figure out how to do the bonding and rapport. So there's two options. You can start with, let's book a 5-minute budget chat where we can talk on the phone, talk about the costs of what it's going to look like. A lot of times those 5-minute budget calls or 10-minute budget calls can turn into full-on appointments right there when you're on the phone because you've got them on the phone. Taking the time when you get them on the phone or when someone calls you. It amazes me sometimes when I work with clients and they're like, well, this bride called in. A bride who calls you is a hot lead. She actually picked up the phone and called in. So on that initial call, don't take down their info and email them information. That's your meeting right then and right there. Say, do you have a few minutes so we can talk? Everything that you would do on person, you run right down the same path and the same process on the phone. And by email. Email is probably the hardest because you have to find a way to bond with people. Bonding and rapport is really hard to do through email, but if you know what your benefits are in general that apply to most clients, you can still use those when it comes to talking about email. But the non-meeting is the non-issue. 90% of the selling that I do today with vendors and venues and clients is on the phone. So it's just connecting and bonding and asking a lot of questions. You have to make sure that you're asking the questions and giving them the opportunity to talk. That's really important to do, to ask and ask and ask and ask. How did you find me? Where are you looking? What's the style that you're looking for? What's the most important piece of the wedding planning? You need to focus on them talking twice as much as you. Every answer they give you, you can respond, affirm, yes, I hear what you're saying, repeat it back, but you move on by saying, asking them another question. So when somebody says to me, I ask how's wedding planning going, and their response is, it's the same process on the phone. The first thing when I answer the phone is, oh, thank you so much for calling, blah, blah, blah. So how's the planning process going? And they immediately will go down the diatribe of, oh, like it's been so great. I'm having so much fun. Or I've looked at 25 venues that used to give me a heart attack. And I'd be like, okay, I don't even need to tell you about this property. What is it that you're not finding? So that way I'm not selling anything. I'm just trying to help fulfill the need. So making sure that, you go back and forth and that you are asking them the questions to find a way to be helpful. I used to tell myself that every single bride and groom I sat in front of, my goal was to make sure that they had the best possible wedding that they could have. Sometimes it was at my property or with the business or service that I provide, but sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes halfway through a tour, I would say, listen, based upon the questions you're asking, I don't think this venue is the right fit for you. But let me make you some recommendations. Let me send you to some people who might be a better fit. So if you stop looking at prospects as like, ooh, potential bride and groom, and you start looking at them more along the lines of, that piece and that part of who they are and, making sure that you're helping them and fulfilling the needs of what they're looking for, that's more important than you doing sales over the phone. The last portion of the conversation should be what you offer. you should walk them all the way down your list of questions to find out, how you can connect with them. What do you have in common with them? Why did they, if you're a photographer, why did they call you? I mean, if you're a rental company, obviously they called you because they need tables and chairs. Well, how do they find you? Like, what's important to them? Like, so that you can, what's important? What's going to help you decide over chair company A versus chair company B? If it's just price, if she says price is the only thing that's important to me, my response is, I know I'm not going to be the least expensive price. I sent you the prices before we even had this conversation. So why are we still talking? Like, why? You got to watch the tonality if you use that one. I was maybe a little too sassy. If we were role playing, I would have done that a little bit softer. But, so if price is going to be the deciding factor, picking a hotel is never going to be the least expensive option. It's focusing on educating. Yes, Kelly, but you have to educate based upon the needs that they need. You can't try to tell them. Nothing makes brides and grooms more upset than somebody telling them what they need, and it's the polar opposite of what they think they need, and because they feel like you're talking down to them. So you have to be careful because you want to help them, but you have to make it their idea. I've worked for some amazing men in my career. Somehow I've always worked for men about 20, 30 years older than me, who gave me great advice and taught me a lot of things. But one of the things I learned the fine art of was how to plant the seed so it was their idea. And when they came back, they'd be like, oh, Shannon, I've got this great idea. I'd be like, oh my God, we should do that. It's the same thing with brides and grooms. It's planting the seed of doubt, of confusion. If you're a DJ and they're like, I don't really care, it's about the price. Well, why do you think that some DJs would be more expensive than others? And get them to start telling you, well, maybe it's the equipment. Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, they could definitely have different equipment. What else do you think they'd be different? Well, maybe so-and-so has more experience. Yep, that could definitely come into factor. But the bride and the groom is now telling you, they're selling you on why they should hire you. So just make sure whether you're doing it on the phone. Email's the hardest. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Selling over email is challenging. Text is like phone. The sparkle shoes, of course, Jenny. Sparkle shoes is what sells. But making sure that email is definitely a struggle, but talk to them in email like you're talking to them sitting in front of you. I mean, at least do your best. So listen, overall, listening equals more sales, and more sales equals more money, the ability to help your customer, or you help them to the point at which they felt so comfortable with you that they refer you. Right? So let's leave out you don't even book them. If you have done a really good job, they will refer their friends, their family, the other people they know, even if they couldn't afford you, because we're not the right fit for everybody, right? But if you create that relationship and then I can't fulfill your needs. So it's important to figure that out. I mean, there are vendors in town who I love them, but they just sell what they think you need and they shove it down your throat. And that's great because they're right. You kind of do need the things they're saying, but it's the approach. It's the approach that you use when you talk to them is the most important thing to do. And the more you sell, the more motivation you have to keep on selling. I don't know about you guys, but when I signed a contract, it was always like, whoop, whoop, like it gives you that little boost of confidence to go on to the next one. So that's really important. So a few places to start, easy peasy. Whatever your client meeting sheet is, whether it's a call on or in front of them, put a little spot on there and just write PP, which is the pain points, and make sure you're looking for and listening for those. And if you force yourself to write it down on your client sheet as to and pain points are going to kind of is a similar conversation of saying what's going to be the deciding factor. Budget could be a huge pain point. When I worked for the catering company, what was included on the bar was a big pain point. Like if we included Absolute and the groom was like, I only drink Tito's vodka. It's like, okay, great. Well, we can get Tito's. Like that was a pain point for him. That everywhere he was going and looking at, every caterer, no caterer carried Tito's. That was his pain point. a silly one to me, but whatever, it's his pain point. So what his pain points are, whether I think it's stupid or not, was a deciding factor for them. Record your next client meeting on audio. This is the worst. This is the worst. And then listen to it, or bring me in to sit in another room, because it'll change your whole life. I do that for some of my clients. I'll sit in on a sales meeting and listen, and in a separate room, but where I can hear it. I don't see them, the client doesn't see me, and I just kind of take notes about areas that I can see that they're struggling in and listening to. But if you don't want to spend the money on that, which I understand, you can just record it and listen to yourself afterwards. The really big key when it comes from a listening standpoint of your clients is who did the most talking. How can you ask better questions? How do you turn the things you would tell them into a question? Focus more on connecting with their needs and less on selling. Changing your process, because you guys are not all brand new. So this is changing the process of what you have been doing. And it's not supposed to be easy. So it's supposed to be worth it, and you're supposed to make more money off of it. So that's really good. Here's the newsletter sign up. I think most of you are probably on the newsletter, but if you're not, feel free to sign up for it. The website Wedding Venue Map is coming soon. Remember, we are looking for blogs. So if you have a blog to share that's helpful information for brides and grooms, if you're looking for topics, for a blog, I can help you with that also, but sign up to get an info. Next month is customer reviews, the gift that keeps on giving. And so that'll be good. If you guys have any questions, I'll talk a little bit about some questioning techniques to finish out the hour. But if you have any questions, please share them in the box now. And then that way I can make sure I hit it, because we have about 10 minutes left. There's no way I can do these shorter, but I mean, I can take out some of the info, but it's so good. So questioning techniques that work really well is making sure that you flip everything into a question. So if we're on a tour and, or you're meeting with a bride and groom and you're a DJ, whether it's on the phone or in person or whatever. And so let's say you're a DJ and it's saying, well, have you thought about what type of music you want to listen to at the reception? And they say, we really want everybody to dance and party. Well, what information do you think could really help me to help guide your music? Instead of you telling them, it's really important for you to tell us the age groups of the guests, blah, 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 that's you selling it. Turn anything you can sell into a question. So if I'm a wedding planners, I think probably have it the hardest, because you're a luxury you are a necessity for those of us in the industry. But for brides and grooms, you're a luxury. So if you can make sure that you're asking the questions, like, so let's say you decide that, you're not going to hire a planner on wedding day. Who's going to review all your contracts to make sure that you didn't miss anything? And they're like, what do you mean? And I said, well, a lot of times we find when our brides and grooms send us over those contracts at 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever you do, and we start looking through them, we realize that everybody's blocked for different timelines and different time paths. And if we hadn't caught it, it would have cost them, more money. Even that you can change around and say, what do you think would happen if all of the vendors on wedding day were booked for different time windows? Get the bride to tell you, or the groom, or bride and groom, or groom and groom, or bride and bride. What would happen if? Tell me more about, on wedding day, who's going to set up all your stuff. And they're like, what stuff? Because at the point at which they haven't really thought about it, right? They haven't, or it's, my venue does that. Okay, great. So you've already gone over with your venue person all of these great details that you're telling me about. And so if they're doing that, are they there at the end of the night to break it down? Oh, I don't know. That's a really important question to ask. So making sure that you are turning anything that is a tell into a question. It's not easy to do, but find yourself in your next meeting, and I definitely want to hear the feedback. So tell me about your next meeting. I don't care if it's on the phone. Phone is fine. It's all the same, right? So make sure the next meeting you have with a bride or groom or client or corporate client, I don't really care, whoever you're working with, you focus on asking the questions and listening for the answers, repeating back what they say to get confirmation. Katie's got a phone meeting today. It better go better now that you just sat and listened to this. Let me know if you guys have any other questions. Hopefully you got some really good info. I will follow up with a survey that gives me an idea of what you liked, what you didn't like, time frame, time-wise, if I should cut these down shorter, which I'm happy to do. Next month's webinar, I'm charging for it. It's only $5, but it's a lot of time and effort into preparing this info to be able to give you guys. So hopefully you'll still come. Like I said, it's only $5 and it's through Eventbrite. I'll e-blast it out and it is up on Facebook already. But I hope you're finding value in these, and then you'll still get the videos. You can sign up for it, and even if you don't have time to show up, I'll still send it out to anybody who signs up for it either way, whether you're able to attend or not. If you're a member of the CFWA or an advertiser for Perfect Wedding Guide, you will get coupon codes from them so that you get to attend for free, and it will be in the future only for wedding venue map advertisers without having to pay for it. Everyone else will pay for it, and the advertisers on the website, once it launches, will be, and on the map, will be included. So hopefully, Tao, you got a question for me? Just let me know what you need. I've got 5 more minutes on here, so if you need it. And how do you differentiate your value from other top-notch vendors? Ooh, that's a really good question. You can't really slam people. I'm going to stop screen share, and I'm going to pop my video back on so that you can see me instead of, okay, here we go. Oh. Okay, can you see me? All right, I think I'm there. Stop the screen share. So that was a really good question. So differentiating your value, you have to be able to know what is your competitive advantage as a vendor. What makes you different? What's something that you provide that other people don't? And if the answer is nothing, then you got to work on that, right? You have to figure out what makes you different and really make sure that the clients are the right fit for you. So there's so many great vendors in every category. It's important to be able to see and know, which couples are the right fit for you. So when you're talking about your value, most people are just saying, I do this, and I do that, and I do that. If you start selling benefits, you'll be different than like 90% of the wedding planners in your area because everyone else sells features. Truly. I mean, everywhere you go, every ad you read, it's feature, 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 not benefits. So make sure that you're touching on the emotional side of weddings and events. It's the de-stress. It's the having more time to breathe. It's enjoying the day with your family. It's not about, I put out all your stuff. Or at the end of the night, like we pack up everything. No, at the end, what's the end of your wedding going to look like? They're like, what do you mean? Were you thinking about a grand exit? Oh yeah, we're going to do sparklers. Awesome. So who's going to be out there with you? Who's going to be holding the sparklers? Everybody. So if everybody is outside and then after the party ends, then what happens next? You do your exit and what happens next? And they're like, I don't know. And it's like, we don't expect you to know because we take care of them. And we make sure that it is, stress-free and comfortable. Great job, Rudy. Those are those competitive advantages that you're talking about. So make sure you focus on the benefits, not on the features, and it'll make a huge difference. If you guys don't have any other questions, I'm going to let you go for the day. I'll email this out a little bit later today in case you missed it. And if you need anything, you can always email me. If you've got blogs to share, feel free to send them over. Can't wait. And hopefully I see you next month or networking before that, CFWA, Perfect Wedding Guide luncheons. I'm all over the place. So let me know if I can do anything to help or if you have some topics you want to learn about. Have a great day.